Welcome to Night Bites. Scary story. If you're here, chances are you've been craving that chill down your spine and the kind of stories that haunt you long after they're told. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps push our content to the top of YouTube. Now then, turn off the lights, put on your headphones. Let's begin. Until 3 weeks ago, I was living what most people would call a simple, happy life. I'm a stay-at-home dad. Probably spend more time on Reddit than I should admit. 12 years ago, during a work trip to Osaka with the ad agency I worked for, I met my wife, Noriko. Nori, for short. Shortly after we started dating, she was offered a management position at the newly opened New York branch of her company. At the time, I was living in Connecticut and working remotely, so moving to NYC with her was an easy call. Besides, her mom had already been living in Queens for 30 years, so it all made sense. 3 years later, we got married. That spring, our son Nicholas was born. Let me say again, our life was as normal as it gets. Ups and downs, sure, but nothing like what I'm about to describe. 3 weeks ago, Nicholas pulled a little device out of his backpack. At first glance, it reminded me of a Tamagotchi, a plastic egg the size of a palm, 3 or 4 buttons at the bottom, a cheap screen up top. But this one wasn't colorful like the ones I remembered. It was obsidian black, something you might mistake for a medical device from a distance. And stranger still, I never once saw the pet on the display. Nori and I had no clue where he got it. We figured someone at school gave it to him. He called it a tether pet and was completely obsessed with it. I understood. I remember getting a Tamagotchi for Christmas when I was his age. It really did feel like you were responsible for a tiny life. Your relationship with the toy could feel like a matter of life and death. Nick had clearly fallen under the same spell. That Sunday, we piled into Nori's Corolla and took the BQ Expressway to Mount Sinai Hospital in Queens to visit her mom, Aki, who was battling bone cancer. Nick sat in the back, glued to his tether pet. "How's your Tamagotchi doing, bud?" "What? Your little pet thing?" Nick usually loved telling us all about his interests, but this time his voice was flat, serious. "She's fine." "Oh yeah? Did you name her?" "It's a girl." "Cool. What's her name?" "Baba." It was already said I didn't pick it. Nori played along. "Baba. That's a cute name." "Not really. She's always hungry, and every time she poops, I have to clean it up." I laughed. "Sounds familiar." "No, Dad. It's a big responsibility. You don't get it." Nori and I cracked up. The joys of parenting. When we arrived, the nurses asked us to wait outside Aki's room while they changed her bedpan. It was hard seeing how far she'd deteriorated in the past year. Not so long ago, she was bouncing Nick on her lap in our living room, singing that old galloping song, boom da da boom da da boom boom boom. Nick would crack up laughing. Now she couldn't even sit up on her hospital bed. It was rough, but someday that'll probably be me. Before I could sink too deep into that thought, the nurse opened the door and waved us in. Aki's smile was still there, soft, dim, but loving. Nick lit up and ran to the bed. "Grandma!" Aki tried to turn and hug him, but she didn't have the strength. Nori and I followed. For her, this routine had become exhausting. Aki gave us an update on her treatment. The pain was constant, but supposedly there was still a chance. I don't know why, but I never really believed things would turn around. I've seen how this story ends. It's rarely the way we pray for. After the usual small talk, school, work, weather, Nick pulled out the tether pet. "Oh, is that the new toy Grandma gave you?" Nori asked. We glanced at each other. Grandma gave it to him? She could barely sit up, let alone go buy a toy. "Aki, where'd that thing come from?" I asked. "Oh, I think one of the doctors gave it to me. They've been handing them out to patients lately." It sounded strange, but we didn't get a chance to ask more. Another nurse came in and said Aki needed rest. That night, Nori and I talked about why a hospital would be giving away toys like that. Maybe some charitable foundation, but we had more pressing things to deal with and let it go. Everything stayed pretty normal until Nick lost the tether pet. It happened the following Thursday. I was cooking dinner, Nori was working late, and I heard Nicholas screaming from his room. "Dad!" I ran in, expecting blood, a broken limb, something real. Instead, I found him on his knees, sobbing. "She's gone! She's gone! She's gone! She's gone!" "Nick, hey, breathe. What happened?" "She's gone! Baba's gone!" I scanned the floor. "The toy? You lost it?" He nodded, clutching his stomach like he'd been punched. Okay. We'll find it. Don't worry. Where did you last see it?" "I don't know. I had it this morning. I put it in my backpack. I always do." I knelt beside him, rubbed his back. "It's okay, bud. It'll turn up. Probably fell under your bed or something. We'll look together." "No, you don't get it," he cried. "I'm her tether. I was keeping her here. Now she gonna be mad." That made me pause. Mad? "She told me," he whispered. "She said if I ever left her behind, she'd be free." The way he said it chilled me. Not like a child talking about a toy. More like a confession. He refused to eat dinner. I offered to look for the device myself. He just crawled into bed, shaking, and turned to face the wall. Nori got home after dark. I told her what happened, and we turned the apartment upside down. Checked under beds, between couch cushions, even in the trash. Nothing. That night, Nick tossed and turned, muttering in his sleep. And by morning, the apartment smelled wrong. Not like rot, not like gas, just wrong. Like wet dog fur, metal, and something sour, like turned milk. We couldn't find the source. Nori opened every window. Nicholas stayed silent that morning. Pale, distracted. He left for school without a word. That afternoon, I got a call from the principal. Nick had locked himself in the school bathroom. When staff finally got the door open, they found him in the corner, whispering to himself and rocking. "I told her I didn't mean it," he said. "I told her I'd be better, but she's still coming." We brought him home. The smell was worse now. It moved from room to room, like something living was dragging it behind. Nori tried to talk to him. He wouldn't respond. We gave him soup. He didn't eat. By bedtime, he was shivering, even under a pile of blankets. And then, just past midnight, I heard the front door unlock. I froze. The sound was unmistakable, the slow creak of the front door opening, followed by the soft click of it closing. We live in a third-floor walk-up. No draft could turn that deadbolt. I grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer and slipped down the hall, my footsteps silent on the wood. Nicholas's room door was ajar. Empty. "Nick?" I whispered. Nothing. Then I saw him. He was standing in the entryway, barefoot, pajamas too thin for the chill. His back was to me. In front of him, just beyond the threshold of the still open front door, was nothing. The hallway was dark, silent, empty. But Nick was speaking to it. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to forget you. I promise I'll be better." A pause. Then, "You don't have to be angry anymore." My heart thudded. The flashlight trembled in my grip. I took a step forward. "Nick! What are you doing?" He turned. Slowly. Too slowly. His eyes were glassy, unfocused. He looked at me like I was someone he barely remembered. "Dad," he said. She came. The hallway was still empty, but as I stared into the dark, I felt it. A presence, like heat rising from asphalt, like someone breathing just behind your ear. I slammed the door, snatched Nick into my arms, and locked the deadbolt. He clung to me, cold and limp. "She was gonna take me," he whispered into my shirt. But I told her I'd find her. I promised that night he didn't sleep. Neither did I. By morning, he had a fever. We took him to urgent care. They ran tests. No signs of infection. By the third day, he stopped speaking entirely. He just stared at us. No blinking. No emotion. Like something inside had shut off. That evening, I found him in the hallway again, this time scratching words into the wall with his fingernail. Only one word, repeated over and over. Tether. We called his pediatrician, scheduled a psych evaluation. But the earliest they could see him was next week. Nick didn't last that long. The following Monday, Nori insisted we visit her mother again. She thought maybe seeing Aki would bring Nick back, shake him out of it. A memory, a familiar place. I carried him to the car. He didn't resist, just hung limp in my arms, whispering the same word over and over. Tether, tether, tether. At Mount Sinai, Aki looked worse than ever. Eyes sunken, breathing labored. But when she saw Nicholas, her face lit up, if only a little. "Come here, sweetheart," she said in a rasp. Nick blinked. The first time in 2 days. He walked to her without help, laid his head against her chest, and said clear as day, "She's here now." The lights flickered. Every screen in the room, monitors, phones, even Nori's smartwatch, blinked to static, then black. The overhead lights buzzed once, then dimmed to red emergency glow. Aki gasped. Her chest rose, then fell, violently. Her eyes rolled back. Monitors blared and flatlined. Doctors rushed in. They pushed us out. Nick didn't scream, didn't cry, just turned to me and whispered, "She didn't want me anymore. She wanted someone older." And then he fainted. They kept him overnight for observation, but all the scans came back clean. The next morning he was gone, vanished from his room. Security footage showed nothing. No one entering, no one leaving. The bed was empty, the window locked. Only the wall beside his pillow had something new, scratched into the paint with a fingernail. Tether fulfilled. Kevin became my stepfather when he married my mom in 2024. They met in 2022, 2 years after my dad passed away. Honestly, Kevin felt like he'd been sent by God. Stepfathers are supposed to be awful, right? Cartoonishly villainous? I even hoped he would be, just to have a reason to hate him. But to my frustration, I couldn't. I was a grim 15 then, still wrapped in the fresh numbness of grief. So all the ingredients for hate were there. I should have hated my stepdad. But I didn't. Kevin was kind. Kevin was perfect. Only this spring did the illusion crack, when I discovered his peculiar obsession, bottlenose dolphins. At first I was actually relieved to learn about his quirk. Surprised it had taken 3 whole years for something weird to surface, but glad to finally find a flaw. A flaw made him feel more human in my eyes. I was wrong. Shortly before I started college last fall, Kevin took me fishing. despite my polite reminders that I don't enjoy it. Ironically, my older sister Becky would have gladly gone instead, but Kevin called the trip man-bonding. It upset Becky. I, on the other hand, was thrilled to mentally add misogyny to Kevin's list of flaws. Why did any stain on Kevin bring me joy? Did I subconsciously know something was off about him? Was I just trying to find a harmless explanation for that knot of dread in my gut? Something that didn't scare me? Quiet out here, huh, Craig? Kevin said as we both dropped our lines into the water. I shrugged. Sure. Don't worry, he chuckled. Soon you'll be off to college, clubs, booze, bad decisions. You'll get far away from boring old Dad. Can I call myself that? I stifled an annoyed sigh. You always ask, and the answer is always yes. I know, but you still don't say it, Kevin replied. That makes me sad. I awkwardly changed the subject. So, what is it you like about fishing so much? His face lit up. Nature, Craig. It's beautiful. Sometimes cruel, but beautiful. Perfectly balanced, perfectly designed. Want to know my favorite animal? The question was strange, almost childish, and his tone was full of boyish wonder. Still, I nodded. Bottlenose dolphin, Kevin whispered, gazing dreamily at the water. That's why I convinced your mom to do this little Wales trip before you head off to school. I want to see them swimming along the coast. God, I used to go every year. It's been 3. I'm desperate. But talking to you about dolphins, that's nice too. I've spent 3 years chirping your mother's ears off, and now I finally get to share it with someone new. Oh yeah, bottlenose dolphins. They're probably my favorite thing in the world. I barely kept from laughing at the passion in his monologue. For something so important to you, it's weird I've never heard about it before. Kevin sighed, deeply, mournfully. You see, not everyone understands. I used to open up, share my passion, and I got burned, a lot. I snorted, masking a laugh as a cough, but Kevin fell silent after that. And the silence wasn't peaceful. It simmered with something dark. I could see it. Beneath the cracking mask of his politeness, he was boiling. Kevin didn't say much the rest of the day. When we got back to the bed and breakfast, I told my sister about the dolphin monologue. She laughed and said Kevin had been unusually quiet around her too. The next morning, we boarded the boat. We were off the coast of South Wales, a spot famous for dolphin sightings. Kevin had practically begged us to take the early trip before the tourists swarmed in. The tour guide welcomed us aboard with fake enthusiasm. Then he gestured toward the sea. Ladies and gents, if you look out to your right, and there they were. Dolphins, real ones. They were stunning. I'd never seen them in person before. The whole boat fell into quiet awe. Except Kevin. Kevin began to cry. At first, it was subtle, just trembling lips and glassy eyes. But then the sobs came, deep, choked, full-body shakes. The kind of crying that makes your chest feel like it's going to cave in. Everyone on the boat noticed. One family looked embarrassed for him. An older woman looked terrified. I just stood there frozen because Kevin wasn't watching the dolphins anymore. He was watching me. That night, back at the bed and breakfast, Kevin locked himself in his room. The next morning, he was still silent. He barely touched his breakfast and wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Mom kept asking what was wrong. He just said he was tired. When we got home a few days later, I stayed up late reading. I was curled up on the couch when Kevin came into the living room, gave me a silent nod, and disappeared into the kitchen. I sat frozen. He didn't grab water, didn't open the fridge. He just stood in the dark, watching me. I asked him what he was doing. No answer. Eventually, he just turned and left. After that, things started changing. Kevin became withdrawn, moody. He'd stare into the distance during dinner, chew each bite for minutes like he'd forgotten what food was. Mom grew worried, asked him to see a doctor. He said it was just stress, work stuff. Then one day I went to ask him something and found his bedroom door ajar. He wasn't inside, but on the desk was a drawing. Childish, crude. It showed a bottlenose dolphin, only wrong. Its face was too human, the eyes small and sunken, the mouth stretched too wide, like a screen. The dolphin was surrounded by red waves. Blood. Beneath it was a single word, scrawled over and over in trembling block letters. Mouth. That night I had a dream. In it, I was floating in open water, no land in sight. The sky was starless, black as ink. Beneath me something stirred. Then I saw it. A dolphin, massive, wrong, rising from the depths. Its skin was gray, slick, pocked like something half-rotted. Its mouth opened, and it didn't end. Just layers of pink flesh, ring after ring of teeth, spiraling inward like a tunnel. And deep inside, something looked back at me. I woke up gasping. 2 nights later, Kevin asked to talk. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. "I need you to listen," he said. "I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I need to tell someone before it gets worse." I nodded, heart racing. He looked down at his hands. They were shaking. "It started when I was 13, he whispered. "First dolphin sighting. My dad took me out on the Gulf and I saw one leap from the water. Everyone thought it was beautiful." He paused. "But I saw its mouth." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He stared at me. "I mean, I saw what was inside it." I didn't speak. Kevin continued. "No one else saw it, but I did. Something was inside the dolphin, Craig, looking out, watching me." I thought about the drawing. "The mouth?" I asked. His lips trembled. "I've seen it in dreams, in reflections, in the noise when I close my eyes. It's hungry. It's waiting. It wants..." He trailed off. "What does it want, Kevin?" He looked at me, and for a moment I saw something behind his eyes, something not entirely his, to be remembered. Kevin begged us to go kayaking the next day. Said he wanted one last trip before Craig leaves for school. Mom agreed. I didn't want to, but I went. We set out just before dawn. Mist hovered over the water. The world felt too quiet. Kevin paddled ahead, far from the shore. I followed. He didn't speak. We stopped in a wide, empty cove. The water was still. Kevin looked around like he was waiting for something. Then he turned to me. "There's a place," he said. "Out there. Deeper than the ocean should allow. They say nothing echoes from it. Nothing returns." I didn't answer. Kevin's eyes welled with tears. "I think it lives there. The mouth." Then he smiled and tipped himself over. I shouted, paddled like hell to reach him, but he didn't come up, just bubbles. Then nothing. They searched for 3 days, never found a body. The Coast Guard called it a tragic accident. Mom cried for weeks. Becky blamed herself for not being there. But me, I can't cry. Because I know what I saw. Because sometimes, late at night, I dream of a gray shape circling under my bed. And when I wake, I swear I can still hear it. Something wet. Something breathing. Something remembering. Most of us have seen Groundhog Day. Bill Murray relives the same day over and over until he becomes the best version of himself, charming enough to win over Andy McDowell's character. Great movie, but it barely touches on how long he's trapped in that loop. He learns French, masters the piano, carves ice sculptures. Those things would take decades. Credit where it's due for perseverance, but when every day repeats, there's really nothing else to do. I wish I remembered the first few days. The first decades blurred into noise, into a static hum deep in the back of my skull. If there ever was a first day, it's long gone. But I'll try. I wake up at 7:15 a.m. That's how the next 215 years began. I have to be at work by 8, and it's about a 30-minute drive, so I rush. My personal record: waking up, getting dressed, grabbing food, and out the door in 4 minutes and 23 seconds. The drive takes exactly 19 minutes and 50 seconds. If I avoid speed cameras and cops, on day one, I wasn't so efficient. 15 minutes just to find clean pants. I showed up late, frantically set up my gear, and started playing. By work, I mean I was hired to play music at a local weekend market. My income was a patchwork of Centerlink support, odd jobs, and whatever people dropped in my guitar case. Barely enough to scrape by. I strummed terrible covers for 3 hours, trying to be louder than the smoothie blender at the booth across from me. Then came lunch and a coffee break. Over countless loops, I tried every food stand. Only one decent option: a tiny Mexican cart in the far corner of the field. The coffee there was garbage, but I found a passable cafe 5 minutes away at a sprint. By my 100th cycle, I'd nailed the timing. I could grab a burrito and a respectable long black and be back before my 15-minute break ended. After that, I'd play for 2 more hours and pack up. The rest of the day was mine. I don't even remember what I did the first time. Maybe I went to a bar. Maybe I stayed home and scrolled myself into a trance. Either way, eventually I'd fall asleep, and everything would reset. When the day first repeated, I chalked it up to déjà vu. The second time, I figured it was just a vivid dream of yesterday. By the 5th cycle, I ditched the market altogether and just did whatever I wanted. No consequences. I drank, stole cars, broke into strangers' homes just to see how they decorated, sped down the freeway, ran red lights, did everything I'd never dare if I wasn't absolutely sure I'd get away with it. And for a while, it was the most fun I'd ever had. But fun wears off. Thrills dull. Eventually, even anarchy becomes routine. I pivoted, decided to watch every movie I'd ever wanted to see. Took me maybe 50 years. Funny how I can't remember half of them now. Couldn't write anything down. I did the same with shows, music, books, consumed, forgot, repeated. Tried video games too, but that was a mistake. Progress doesn't save when the day resets. Eventually, I started learning skills: painting, cooking, writing, anything that could be done in 24 hours. At one point, I became a master of latte art. Even won some barista competitions, unofficially, of course. Learned to draw photorealistic portraits. Got into origami. Memorized entire books and rewrote them with new endings. It wasn't about meaning. It was about movement. I needed to drown out the ticking. Keep my hands busy so my thoughts didn't spill out of my ears. But over time, what became more important weren't the things I could do, but the things I couldn't. I couldn't take a trip that lasted more than a day. Couldn't see a new city or catch a connecting flight. Couldn't leave the limits of what I could reach by car and return before the reset. I couldn't finish a novel, not unless I read it all in one sitting. Couldn't grow a plant, because by the next morning it'd be gone. Couldn't adopt a dog. Couldn't fall in love. I tried. Over and over, I fell for the same girl, a barista named Chloe at the cafe I'd found near the market. At first, I just smiled and paid for coffee. Then I asked for her name, told her jokes, paid attention to her stories. Each day, I'd go a little further. Learned her favorite drink, the band she hated, the movie she'd seen too many times. One day, maybe my 500th attempt, I made her laugh so hard she cried. She wrote her number on my cup. But that night, I went to sleep. And the next morning, she didn't know me. Back to the beginning. Always the beginning. I tried again. Again. 1,000 more times. Eventually, I stopped going to the cafe altogether. Then the questions began to creep in. Was I the only one aware of this loop? I tried waking people up, screamed at them, cried, explained every detail of their lives. No one believed me. They'd nod sympathetically, assume I was high, or just quietly edge away. I began to lose track of time. Time without time. I smashed clocks, burned calendars. Still, the day came and reset. No matter what I did, no matter how I did it, it always ended the same. Sleep. And then the same damn morning. So I changed tactics. What if I changed myself? I started from the inside. Meditated, fasted, went without speaking. Practiced gratitude. Forgave people who'd hurt me. Tried to help others, one day at a time. Once I spent an entire month delivering flowers anonymously to a woman who worked the booth beside mine. She smiled more by the end. I never told her it was me. Another month, I played music specifically to soothe people. No more ego, no showing off, just harmony, calm, stillness. Did it change anything? Number. But for a while, I felt peace. Then came the next phase, the one I try not to think about anymore. I wonder what would happen if I died. So I tested it. I walked into traffic, jumped from a rooftop, took pills. I won't give you the list, but I tried everything I could imagine. Every time I'd wake up in bed, whole, unscarred, at 7:15 a.m. Eventually, I got creative. I tried erasing myself, refusing to eat or drink, lying motionless for hours. I once locked myself in a basement without light or sound and just waited. Let my mind unravel. But morning still came. I tried chaos again. I burned things, hurt people, screamed into the void, hoped something would notice. Nothing did. The next morning, everything reset. Even the bruises I left on others were gone. Then one day, I snapped. I played music at the market like usual, but differently. I started with soft chords, then built into something angry, wild, messy, like a tantrum made of strings. People stared. Someone told me to stop. I didn't. I screamed at them, told them I'd been stuck for centuries, that I'd watched them smile the same fake smiles 1,000 times, that I knew which vendor was cheating customers, which couple would cheat on each other, which kid would grow up angry and hollow. They looked at me like I was insane. Maybe I was. I went home, collapsed on the floor, and wept. I wept so hard, I thought maybe that would break the loop. Some ancient god watching would see my despair and finally release me. But morning came. Eventually, I stopped doing anything at all. I'd wake up, lie in bed, and wait. No breakfast, no market, no music, just stillness. I did that for a long time. Years, maybe. The sun would rise, fall, rise again. Same day, same sky, same breath in my chest, and then something changed. Not big, just a flicker. A man at the market, someone I'd seen 1,000 times, stopped, looked at me and said, "You look tired." He'd never said that before, not once. I didn't answer, just stared. He looked away, embarrassed, kept walking. But it shook me. Something had shifted. Something small, yes, but real. The next day, I went back to the market, played my music. Nothing happened. The day after, I played something I'd never played before. Something new, improvised. Someone clapped. That had never happened either. It wasn't much, just a few grains of difference, but I noticed them. And that's when I realized something. Maybe this loop isn't punishment. Maybe it's a question. Maybe it's waiting for an answer I haven't learned how to give. So I wake up each day and I try. Try to notice. Try to change something. Try to listen. Because maybe one day I'll get it right. Maybe one day I'll wake up and it will be tomorrow. That's all for tonight. If this story got under your skin, give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. There's more to come. Chilling tales, dark secrets, and nightmares lurking in the shadows. We'll meet again in the next episode of Night Bites. Scary story. Sleep tight, if you still can.